All right, welcome to Transform You, where we do live coaching. I'm Dean Sunseri. It's my wife, HollyKem Sunseri. We work as a team, and today we have a wonderful guest. We have Sharon. And won't you introduce yourself, Sharon? Give us a minute or two about who you are and what you do, and then jump into the topic that you would like us to work with you.
Hey, I am north of Seattle. I'm 77 and I brag about it. And I have a master's in behavioral science. And what used to be the middle of five, and now I'm the oldest of three because my older brother and sister have passed on. I grew up on a farm in eastern Washington where I had to learn how to milk cows and stack hay and gather the eggs. But I was the only one in my family that went to college. I think I was a lifelong learner way back then.
Yeah, you an overachiever from day one.
Sounds like my husband. Yes.
So, what is it that you would like to work on today?
Well, I'm kind of torn a little bit between a couple things, and they both have to do with men.
I
Watch
love
out!
Come on.
that. Good topic.
Many women would be excited to hear
Yes.
about this topic.
I've been giving some thought to being, because I feel like I have a message about relevance and being seen and being valued and heard. All my career, I was aware that I um, I would speak up for the person who was being overlooked. I'm quite the thinker, but I sometimes I paid attention to who's coming behind me. Can I speak up for them? And I did at times because I had been raised in a family that there was a lot of sexual abuse. My sister had a baby by my dad, and therefore, watching this go on for years, I never did have a good relationship with my dad. And in fact, when I left Seattle for Tampa, Florida, I a couple of days before that, I was in somebody's house, and this lady was kind of giving a word of knowledge to people, and she asked some kind of question like, "What was my earliest memory?" And I said, "Well, I don't know if this is really did happen, but I kind of had this sense that I was like stiff as a board, laying in my bed and scared." And she said that really did happen. So whatever it was, and so you know, a lifelong learner was a good place to be because I would rather, get my relationships through books.
Mhm.
They didn't hurt, they helped me grow. Besides, I love to learn, and so um, I've never dated that much, and I frankly didn't find guys very interesting. Never had a good relationship with my dad. Not that it was, you know, fighting, but I'll never forget leaving the dining table one night when I was being ridiculed a lot. I kind of got as a teenager called a blue elephant. I was big for my age, even back in first grade.
Hmm.
And so so I got to the point I did not want to take this any longer. I'd rather leave the table than to put up with this um, crazy way of teasing.
Mhm.
And I was called back to the table, and Dad said, you come by your size naturally, that grandfathers on both sides were taller than my folks. They tended to be on the short side. and um, and so he says it's legitimate that you're, taller than other kids. And but by a teenager, it's the name was called Blue Elephant. You're in jeans on the farm, and but still, that's a funny way of loving people.
Yeah.
Just
Mm.
calling them names. These days it would be called bullying, right?
Yeah,
Yes, that
yeah.
was the word I heard.
Well, there's so many things that you brought up already that if we could
Right.
talk some about, we'd love to dive into that because, there's three parts of ourselves
Mm-hmm.
on the inside that we work with. One is the part of us that carries our pain,
Mm-hmm.
that's experienced all the difficult events that we've experienced
Over our whole life.
our whole life. And we put all that in one bucket and we
One
call it
little
the
bucket.
wounded child.
Mm-hmm.
We call it the part of us, and it's just a word we describe
Yes.
that is the part that carries our emotional pain. And then we also have a part of us that is our coping behavior. It's how we cope with our emotional life. It's our reaction to the pain. So
Right.
if I go into a kitchen and I get burned, my reaction might be not to go back into the kitchen. Even if I'm hungry, I'm not going back into that kitchen. I will not go close to that stove.
Exactly.
And then we have the true self, which is
Right.
who we really are. It's
Right.
the part of us that's connected with God, that has our destiny, that will even use the difficult things that we've
Right.
experienced to be transformed to give life
Yeah.
to others. And so even so far, you've put out so many things
Right.
that or make so much sense.
Right, to all
just
three parts.
to all three parts. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I love your courage. I love it. I was sexually abused as well. I love your courage. Inside the home by my step grandfather, but he was my grandfather. So, and in the wound of being, abused, even if we know for sure your sister, but we know you didn't feel safe, right? So in that, you put that in a bucket, and it's like there's unsafety with family, right? And then the symbol is a male figure, because we have evidence from your sister of what did happen with your father. There's no denying it, right? So you put that in that bucket. And then here you are, this true self, very highly intelligent, smart girl, right? Girl. And you're very intelligent to the point to where you're helping your siblings learn. But in the helping, you learn, right? So you have all of this, and through life, then what happens is your protector, your coping mechanism takes it to another level. And not only that you're smart, but she's going to never stop learning, right? And so she's found a way to help you survive this painful thing that was happening as a child, right? So in that, when you look at that, it's like, why would men be very safe? If you look at it through their eyes, I'm sure you as a woman, you're like, yeah, men are great. I know lots of men. I'm sure you have lots of men friends. You have men, you got men that are brothers and stuff. But it's like in that, when you see it that way, it's like when you look through the wounded eye, why would that be safe? Why would men be safe? And then he called you names. His loving way of talking to you was, not so loving. Did he love you? Of course he loved you. But did you deserve a different way? Yes.
Yeah, I remember, in fact, I had dinner on a Sunday afternoon with my uncle down here in a restaurant, and I got brave enough to tell him our family secret.
Wow. Good.
And he acknowledged that there were times that things were said in such a way that it made him wonder, like, why would a parent react that way?
Mm-hmm.
And the beauty of that day was that he died that week, my uncle.
Wow.
So for him to kind of validate
Exactly
my secret,
yes,
was a gift.
Well, and not only just validate you and not reject that wasn't true, but to also tell you, there was something odd that, I couldn't put my finger on it, but I was like, and you don't want to accuse somebody of something, you have evidence, but it's like in that, for you to hear is so loving for that wound, because even the memory that you spoke of when the lady had the word of knowledge, and that you were in that Bible study, and they were like, it was real, and it was like that validation that there was something that was real scary and real, that I needed to be still, that I needed to be, like, don't move. this is how you stay safe, by him validating that there was something unseen that didn't feel right. It's like the exact same symbol you had, something unseen not feeling right. And the beauty that you had the courage as a true self person to expose secrets about the family to a family member is very risky, because they could say, well, I don't know why you're saying that, but to have it validated, yeah, it brings up so much healing.
Yeah. There's also an
So much
element,
healing.
the part of us that carries our emotional pain, that remembers all the experiences that we've had. God designed it to where if we experience things that are too overwhelming emotionally
Yeah.
or too much for us to handle, we tend to, as you know, we kind of put it in a box and we can either totally forget about it or kind of remember, but we still not really attached to it. And then as we continue to grow and as we continue to become emotionally stronger, then sometimes that starts to come back at a stage to where we can work with it. But that part of us that carries our pain has two very important characteristics. One is it has no sense of time,
This is so important.
which the part of us that experiences difficult events doesn't know the difference between 25 years ago, 35 years ago, yesterday, and today.
It knows no difference.
And that part of us thinks in symbols.
Yeah.
So there's certain symbols that can trigger it.
Yeah.
And we all have our sensitive symbols on the inside. And perhaps, in this situation that you had this symbol connected to men, right? And one of the most important and most formative experiences is our relationship with our fathers.
Yeah.
And so you had this somewhat confusion towards men in terms of who he is. He provides, but he also violated my sister and this. And so they have that symbol that carries a life of its own. And so you as an adult woman may have a different idea about a man, but that part of you is like, whoa, what are you doing? look out. Remember. And so we have this divided energy. I mean, I can give you an example. When my father was growing up, he was a good dad. He was strict. And I remember one time my brother got a whipping for not revealing that he made an F on a test, and he waited till Monday morning to get it signed.
Yeah, get a good sign.
And I remember he got a nice whooping, and I remember seeing that and saying, I will never do what happened there. And I remember years and years later, I was working at a high school, and I got a note in my mailbox that said the principal wants to see me after school. And the principal's my boss, and so I'm like, okay, well, let's go see what he wants. But there was a part of me that got really scared, like really scared. And my reaction to it was play like you didn't get the note and don't go to the meeting. But what was the symbol? The symbol was a male authority that's important to me, wants to see me, and I don't know what it's about. Are you ready for a journey of self-discovery and healing? Introducing A Roadmap to the Soul, a practical guide to love, compassion, and inner peace. This book offers practical tools and insights to navigate your inner landscape, release emotional blockages, and embrace your authentic self. Start your transformational journey today by getting your copy now. See the link in the description. And now, back to the lesson. And even though I had no sense of I did anything wrong, the wounded part of me was like, you're going to be reprimanded. And I had all these fears like I was going to be punished or even whipped in a sense, the intensity of the fear. But once I understood that, I was able to work with that part and say, listen, this is a different situation. I'm an adult man. I can go in there. If it gets out of hand, I can always walk out. It's okay. And almost parenting this part of me that was triggered. And when I went into the meeting, the principal said, look, you've been doing a great job this year. I wanted to know if you wanted to renew your contract. So my response had nothing to do with what was going on in reality, but had lots to do what was going on in terms of the trigger. And so we all experience that at times, and it's important to really make that connection about our triggers.
Yeah, yeah. The the fact that I don't know, I've never found men all that interesting. I guess if they weren't, well, I tend to like people that have a good wit, and it seems like especially when you're, oftentimes like my nephew, he married his wife because she made him laugh, you know. So, but anyway, I I'm kind of, and what I talked to Dennis about earlier last week was I'm considering, because I feel like I have a good message, a strong message about feeling invisible. I actually felt invisible at the bottom of my gut my whole career, and and now that I've retired, it was since I've started. In fact, I have become the queen of courage on Instagram.
Yes.
And so I do have some courage there, but feeling in retirement, so many people feel unheard,
Yeah.
unseen, and undervalued.
Yeah.
And so I've considered being a contestant on a senior Miss America or senior USA pageant.
Do it. Do it. Do it.
I am for 77. I've been fooling people about my age for a long time and have never had diabetes, cancer, never spent a night in the hospital. And so I feel like I'm a model for others to follow in that way. But when I went out to Facebook, they said there was a couple groups for pageant contestants.
Yeah.
And I was blown away with the first picture I saw because there was these three women standing around a table in their costumes, I guess, the day of the performance. And they looked, I'm judgmental, they
Okay.
looked plastic,
That's
fake.
okay. Right.
They're not authentic.
Yeah.
So that scared me.
That scared
And
you.
the thing though that I sensed really scared me was being on a platform to be
Judge.
admired,
Uh-huh.
Yeah. To be admired,
judged,
judged,
judged.
but I
Is
love
it
the
more
word you
judged or
used. I love
admired?
the word you used, though. The first word you used was so good. Admired. I think you're right. I don't think it's judged. I think it's admired because you haven't been admired yet for being who you are. Oh, this is really, really, really good, Sharon, because I think that is it. It's that you know, and tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, yeah, I always give people an eraser to erase if I don't have it right, if I'm not seeing it right, okay? Is that what I see you saying, and what I see is that here's this invisible person that has the gift to see invisible. There's not a room you can't walk in that you don't see the invisible.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
The one behind you that you always
That you
you're
always
a
had a
voice
voice
for.
for.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so you see the invisible because you understand the invisible. And you've become courageous through your career of having a voice for the invisible and fighting for them. And now
It's time.
it's time that in retirement, you become visible
And a voice for yourself.
and a voice for yourself and allow people to admire you for the voice that you bring to the table and the natural beauty that you know who you are. And in that visible light, you have a voice for all the invisible.
Wow. So you're not doing this just
Wow.
for yourself.
No, God, no. This is huge. I mean, I was neglected, as a child. And, you know, I knew how to be seen in one way, but not for who I was. And, I still can, people can judge of who they think I am. And then when they meet me, they'll say later, oh, I didn't realize you were, whatever they, whatever they thought I was not who I was. Right. And so they'll get brave enough to say that to me. So, and I know you've experienced that, right? When you're not seen for for who you really, really are. And then you touch them with your heart and then they see you, right? So it's like in this I love that you are honoring and admiring yourself in who you are.
Yeah.
That you have that becomes the voice for all the people that have not been seen in this world.
Yeah.
For who they really, really are. You may be seen. Like your dad saw you, but he saw you, giving you that not nice name, right?
So let me add another piece.
So good. I love this.
So Sharon, I would ask you to consider that part of the way you really survived to cope in your family was by being invisible.
Oh,
because
I wanted that way.
Yeah,
exactly.
And now there's a part of you that says you still need to be invisible in order to be okay. But your spirit, your soul is so strong.
Yes.
You're actually confronting that lie.
You are.
That
Okay.
you don't have to be invisible anymore in order to be okay. In fact, people need to see and hear your story because it's a story to be told. And I think part of it sounds like what you're saying is that you've taken a lot of care on taking care of yourself.
Yes.
And a lot of care in really living I would say a pure and good life kind of thing. And therefore you say, well, this is not typical of my age to be in this place as I am.
Right.
And I want to show that because this is a result of the investment I've made for years and years and years in caring for myself. And I want to be someone that is as is and not how I look is not paid for by a plastic surgeon. How I look is natural and it's natural beauty, and that it's okay to be seen now.
Yeah.
Because
Safe.
I'm strong enough to handle it, and I'm not buying into the old belief system that no longer works.
Well, some truth to that. I think a lot of gals go through life and they say, well, if you really knew me, you wouldn't love me.
Oh yeah, right. Yes, that's that part of them that has been protecting them in an unhealthy way, and they think that's who they really, really are, but it's not.
Yeah. So I by the time I retired, I had become 245 pounds. And that's one of the ways that people respond to promiscuous or incest is by either becoming promiscuous. And my sister seemed to have gone that way somewhat because she lived on a military base. And I can remember in my 20s going to night school and grabbing a handful of cookies and calling it dinner, before I run off to school. So I started losing weight after I retired, and so I still have, but I have a wedding dress.
You do?
When I was about 38, 40 years old, I was reading Oral Roberts' book called Daily Guide to Miracles, and he said, act as if your miracle is going to happen. So I went out and said, it'll be a miracle if I ever get married. So I
Oh wait, you went silent on us.
You froze up for us.
Go back.
You know?
All right, go back. You just said about Oral Roberts.
You read the book, Oral Roberts.
Go back there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oral Roberts had a book called Daily Guide to Miracles, and it was meant to be a book that you read 3 or 4 times a year.
Okay.
And 90-day devotional, basically. And he said, act as if your miracle is going to happen. And so I had said, well, it would be a miracle if I ever get married. And so I still have that dress in my closet.
A wedding dress.
I need to lose another 20 pounds to be able to get into it. And I do have a sense in my spirit that he's on his way. Different times I've had that, like a year ago, especially just before Christmas, and somewhat again this year. But I do have a guy that in Baltimore, he lost his wife. I knew his wife. We were in the same youth group growing up,
Oh,
and she passed on, and he saw me in my I was on a cruise the end of September, and I took this royal purple dress with me, and then that was my formal night thing. And my picture turned out pretty good. When I got back in my cabin, I took a couple pictures in, but I don't see him as somebody that I'm romantically attracted to, and yet this thing about loving yourself
mm-hmm.
is a real journey,
It is a journey.
and you can't love others until you love yourself. So I'm becoming more aware of how I've probably been emotionally shut down a lot of my life.
Mm.
And I have yet, I wrote a book, and have not heard the first word from my sisters about my book. I gave it to them as Christmas presents. And so that sense of being supported,
Yeah.
just not there.
Mm.
But I decide what stops me. So becoming Queen of Courage, and even considering standing up for women of this world to be visible is and doing it for those coming behind me is really kind of that nugget of how powerful this is starting to sink in. Yeah.
Well, there's so much. I mean, there's so much you just gave me. Okay, you just gave me so much. I just want to run. It's like I want to run around the room. I want to feel Pentecostal right now, and I want to take a run. Okay, I'm so excited. Is that you're like putting all the pieces together. I can just see it. The weight. Yes, is when we're overweight, we become visible, right? And so it keeps us visible. What's so interesting is once you were retired and you had more control on who you were around, right? Because in the workplace, you don't have that control, right? You could take the weight off. You didn't need it as much to protect yourself, right? And it worked until it doesn't, until you don't need it anymore. So it's like, I don't need that anymore. And then we looking at, here you are writing a book about this, and you share it with people that you love. And unfortunately, obviously, it's a trigger, right? And so it triggers them, and they're unable to get to their truth to say, thank you, sister. This is beautiful. I'm so proud of you for doing what you're doing. They're not able to do that. Okay. And, I understand that. When we wrote our book, my stepfather said, which was like my father, he said, who wrote this book? You didn't write this book. So in that, I get it. And so where we have that hurts, right? Because we want that, right? But where God is so good is that he allows people to see us and encourage us. And that, yes, just because we want it from those people and we deserve it from those people, but for whatever reason, they can't do it. And it's okay. It's not the ideal, but I can say that you wrote a book and that you had the courage to write it and you had the courage to give it to them. And what's going to happen is there's going to be millions more that are going to say, this is awesome. And you helped me see, and you helped me become visible. And in that, it's your courage to be so, I love the honesty of the secret, but the honesty of the pureness of you and the honesty of, you know what, I haven't quite given up on that wedding dress. And, I do have a friend, okay? I'm not sure if that's him, doesn't feel like, but I do have a male friend. And having that innocence of truth that you're holding on to. And now that your father's gone, you know what I'm saying? That you're free. Even if your sisters or your siblings cannot handle, you are free to tell your story. They can tell their own story. That's their business. Your business is that you're free and that you are making a way for them to tell their truth, but you're making a way for all the other people to tell their truth. And one of the problems I see, this HollyKem sees in America, is there's so much, as we know, I think they said not long ago, it was a $150 billion industry, sex trafficking industry in America. This America, okay, people, America, which tells me how many people were sexually abused. That they have, not everybody that's been sexually abused abuses, okay? But the ones that do have been, okay? So there's, you can go no, or, so in this, they're repeating their history, all right? And so to have someone stand up and be courageous and say, no, I am here. This happened. This is how I've protected myself. But I am here. And I am to say that I can be all that God intended me to be. And it's never too late. It's never too late to be Miss America. It's never too late to stand up on a stage. It's never too late to have a voice. And you're not just having a voice because, oh, I want to have a voice. You're having a voice because there's something that needs to be said.
Yeah, I was on a podcast Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, with a lady in India. And she, in fact, said she wants to get this talked about, that women are hiding, and it needs to be talked about.
Yes.
So the one thing that I want to leave with was the first weekend of coaching class, where it was the week before I retired. And they taught us how to write our essence statement. And I now, that's what I really want to do for people, except that I've called it Discover Your Spark, Rekindle Your Joy.
Oh.
And the spark is what's inside of you. So mine sounds like this. I am precious jewel of wisdom. Yeah, having somebody really listen to me matters. I am precious jewel of wisdom. I am colorful collaborator, motivator, and learner. I am tranquil, authentic, and pure inspirer. I light fires.
That's so beautiful.
That's what everybody needs to know about what God put inside of them.
Yes.
They don't preach about this in church.
No, they don't.
But I want to give you a gift.
Oh.
The gift
he
is
gives
this.
Good gifts too.
Before Oral Roberts went on to be with the Lord, he was in his late 80s, and I got invited to go meet with him in his condo with a group of 8 others, and he talked to us and he inspired us, and then he imparted into us. He laid hands on us, and he prayed that the spirit that's in him, that God has given him, he wanted to pass on to us. And I can close my eyes and still remember him laying hands on me. That was such a beautiful experience. But I'm laying hands in the spirit on your dream right now and reigniting it. And I'm laying hands on your wedding dress, on you, on the purity and the sanctity of your journey and of your courage. And so I was seeing, now this crazy as this can be,
Go for it, whatever it is.
I was seeing actually that being part of your beauty pageant, that actually pulling out the dress.
Oh my God.
I'm not saying it has to, but I'm just saying, like, all that it represents is it represents your dream. It represents who you are. It represents you standing before others in your purity.
Yes.
I would also ignite God, go ahead and send her a wonderful companion. And
Yes.
we call that forth.
Yes,
And I think
Lord.
it has so much more than that.
Yes.
And so just in the spirit, I reignite and lay hands on all the dreams that are connected to the dress that you've held on to. And may it be ignited and may it be filled with hope. And we also call it into fruition.
Oh,
Yes, we
yes,
call it
Lord.
into fruition.
I am in agreement.
I've headed for 100, and something that came up just the last 3, 4 days was some kind of affirmation about I receive. All that I've been doing in getting ready for the harvest that I am going to be receiving. I haven't had very many uh, clients, but I've been praying for a harvest nightly, every night,
Yeah.
uh, that there be abundant harvest. And there's a principle about harvest and abundance. And so I've never been one to really look for the money in it. And yet, um, God intends for there to be abundance in the work of our hands. So
Yes.
I
And
have sensed very much wait. And in fact, I knew I was waiting for the culture to change. And as of today,
Okay.
there will be a
Yes.
change in culture. And
yes.
I think we're hungry for it.
We are
Yes.
hungry for. And one of the things that I believe and I know, okay, when I say I know, is that what God showed me is that the people that broke me, they really couldn't break me because they didn't make me. He made me. And
I
even,
think
yeah, even though
through
there's
him,
a
but not
part,
to.
right, a part that is broken, is that as I learned over the last 42 years, I've been sober for 42 years, those 42 years of loving myself, of all that brokenness, and then loving the part of me that, survived it and didn't do the right thing, but loving that part, that in that I found all that God had for me. And I'm still going for it. That I don't want to leave anything on the table, and that what they broke, they really couldn't break who God made. And it's the same for you. He made you beautiful. He made you pure. He made you intelligent. He made you with a voice. He made you an ability to have the wisdom and the discernment to see the invisible. And in seeing the invisible, you become visible, and then they become visible.
Mm, it's so
I
good.
remember my mom telling me at 5 years old, maybe, that I had discernment.
Me too.
There was something going on at church, and I could tell what was real and what wasn't.
Come
Wow.
on.
That's so good. Yeah.
That's it. And God gave it to you. It's still there and it will always be. That's how, our mentor says he, when his 4 girls, when they were little, they're all married now, but they would pray at night. They would pray for for their husband to be protected, to be safe, to no one to be able to hurt them. That when they saw him, they would know him, and he would know, and he would know her, and that it would be very easy, and that their marriage would be clean and pure. And they prayed for their husband as though they were already married
When they were little
when they
girls.
were 2 years old, all their whole life. So when all four of these women, these young women, found their husbands and their husbands found them, they knew it.
They knew it.
And
Yeah.
they had no trauma with the dating and all of that. So I give you that blessing that you're going to have all the same thing that these four women had. You all the blessings.
Yes.
What you
That's so good. Well, we're going to have to land the plane here. It's so good. We could talk all day. But as we close our podcast down,
Yes.
what is one thing you're going to take from today? We're all going to share that, but what is the one thing you're going to take from our session today, Sharon?
Oh, just so much. In fact, I can see hugging you physically. It's in the future for me.
Good.
Uh, yeah, I've been at times savoring being loved lately, the last couple of years especially. And one of my girlfriends here, she keeps talking to me every time I go see her. Her job in college was to, get lots of guys, and lots of dates and all that. It was more important than, so she's trying to get me to go to bigger churches where there's more opportunity. And but I remember reading in Guidepost magazine a gal that she even the possibility, I'm such a possibility thinker that, even if I get a traffic ticket, they could become my husband.
Yeah.
You never know.
Never know.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I'm gonna relish your love.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. What you gonna take, HollyKem?
I am going to take that what what God put in you, you will not leave this earth until you get it all. Your determination for truth, honesty, and purity, he could not let you leave this earth without having it all. And you hearing him and trusting him and writing and speaking and having the dream is really for him to prove he is real. And I encourage you to go for it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
My takeaway is I think fundamentally our biggest struggle when you boil it all down is choosing fear or choosing courage. And you're a woman that has chosen courage. And I believe that's inspired many. I think God's well pleased. And so that's going to be my takeaway is that I need to choose courage. My encouragement to our audience. You face fear, you face courage, and you're called to choose courage. So before we end, won't you tell us the name of your book and where
Yes.
can people
Yes.
get the book?
Please.
Okay, my book is called Fresh Courage in Retirement: Finding Purpose, Essence, and Fulfillment. And it is on Amazon. And I love to sew. I love words of wisdom, and I love color. So there are about 8 or 10 of the little art blocks that I make scattered throughout my book. And this is one of my favorite. I'm not sure if I included it. Worry is a misuse of imagination.
Oh,
Come
that's
on.
great.
That's when I started stomping my foot and say, I refuse to live my life based on fear. And on the Great Discovery platform, I have a short ebook with all kinds of questions about what could be your dream, and have you buried it under all the monotony of making a living and taking care of kids and all that. That if you were to waken up your dream, what would it be? Like following the monarch butterfly migration from Mexico,
Yeah.
or being somebody that just loves the beauty of putting flowers in the roundabout in your area.
Yes.
Oh.
Well, it's so good. It's such a blessing to
my
have you,
God.
Sharon, as a guest.
Yes.
Thank you for opening your heart and being vulnerable because we know that whatever you glean from it, many will glean from your story and your inspiration and some of the things from this podcast. So we thank you for that. And until next time, we'll see you on Transform You.
Don't forget to have a voice.
Are you ready to embark on a journey of personal transformation and inner healing? Our intensive online coaching program is designed for individuals and couples seeking to reconnect with their true selves. Dive into our lessons, activations, live coaching calls, and educational readings tailored to uncover limiting beliefs, healing emotional wounds, and to cultivate a life filled with authenticity. Transform yourself, transform your relationships. It's time to transform you. See the description below to see how to join